I would like to welcome everyone to the 58th episode of Money Trees. True lyricism is storytelling in its purest form. When an artist can weave words that paint visuals while riding the beat like Silver Surfer, you're taking on a journey you'll never forget. That is how I felt when I first heard today's guest. I know this episode will be full of gems, and I am extremely excited to have Carla the Poet here with us. How are you feeling today, Carla?
I'm feeling pretty good. It's a nice, beautiful, hot day out here in Charlotte. So just been outside enjoying the day and, living life. How are you?
I am blessed and highly flavored. It's funny because I love that. Because I was going to start off with saying you tweeted out "touch dirt" today, and that is a sentiment that I cannot stress enough. And so when I went on your page, when I went to go make the announcement, I was just like, yes. And I wanted to know, where were you touching dirt at today?
I actually just left the plant shop and I got a new pothos, marble eye. So I'm going to take that home. I might repot it. Got two stakes for it, or two poles to put together. So that's going to be my activities for today as far as touching dirt goes.
Oh, see, we are literally touching dirt. I love that. She has a green thumb, so many plants in her house. You had an amazing, amazing interview last night with Sassy on Mind Muse. For anyone that has not heard that, you need to go check it out. So, I want to talk about some questions, I'll say, that you did not get to touch on in that particular episode. And starting with your name. Now, you talked about your origins and how you got into music. Again, if you haven't heard it, y'all need to go check it out. But when I first reached out to you, I had mentioned that I loved the Carla the Poet because an artist that I had worked with started off as Maya the Poet, now popularly known as Shoma Josie. Can you talk about how you came across South African house music in your day to day?
Yeah, so actually this all started when I would say around, 15 when I started producing. I would I heard about this artist or this producer called Afrojack, and I loved how it sounded. So I decided to, I had a lot of time on my hands to go on YouTube and just search up different, like I would search up like hip hop in certain areas of the world and just explore that. So I think that's how I got into South African music. I can't say for no. Actually, it was Gqom or Gqom.
Oh my gosh, you got the
Yes.
click. See, I be getting embarrassed when I try to do it. No, you hit it though. That's fire. That's fire. That's fire.
Yeah, so I don't know how I discovered that, but that was the first genre that I discovered over in South Africa. And then after that, it just kind of expanded. Of course, too, I like to explore, like I like to really dive into the culture. So I went on Instagram trying to search through like hashtags of people who did music, who were like smaller artists over there, so that I can like get friends and whatnot to talk to and to like really, guide me through like the languages and point me in the right direction. So that's kind of how I got into that. And of course, it expanded from there. It's not just South African music that I'm really into. I get into Bali funk. I'm touching over there in like French music. I have a lot of different artists that I listen to from all over. So just like to explore as a kid.
Yo, I gotta give you so many props for that. Cause even me, I generalized it a little bit because a lot of people don't know the actual name of the genre, and the closest similar genre would just be house. But the fact that you know that, that's ill. You really dove into the culture, which I think is sick to say because it's such a rich culture in the space. We talk about it with Show, where our whole mission with her was going hyper local to go super global, which was putting her tribe and her background at the forefront of her artistry and her career to allow the world to see like there's dope shit happening in this small place of Limpopo that most people had never ever heard of. And then, like you said, learning the languages and understanding the different dialects and how that changes from sound to sound. Okay, I am already impressed. I was already impressed prior to this, but just seeing That's insane. Are you at all caught up on Amapiano? Have you started listening to that yet?
I have not. What is that?
So Amapiano is a slightly more pop-ish version, I'll say, that started in South Africa and is starting to make waves around the globe now, where many of the previous genres were, I'd say, they were a bit more regional and not as easily traveled. And Amapiano is becoming one of the sounds that, regardless of where you're from, it resonates and connects with you. And so I would say I'll shoot you some pretty ill playlists when we get off of here. But I think that you'll thoroughly enjoy diving into Amapiano, especially listening to your sound and some of your flows in your pockets, where I think there's some Amapiano beats that you might sound crazy on. And I might be jumping the gun there, but I think it could be crazy. And even for your producer mind, it might be ill.
Yeah, nah, send that through because I still like to do some exploring today, but sometimes it's just like I dive deep into one area and I just like stick to that one area, then I branch out again. But yeah, send me that. I want to check
Yeah,
it out.
nah, hell yeah. You'll fuck with Amapiano for sure. So yo, I we were playing some of your records at the top of this, and the intro that I gave, it's no hyperbole. And this is I try to keep the episodes very focused on the guest, and we're gonna dive into an opinion of yours that I share, and I would argue that many others share, even if they won't articulate it. When I listened to your music, I was like, oh, okay, talent. Boom, this is fire. Needs to be cultivated. You know, there needs to be more exposure given, but there is talent here, and there is a standard that has been set and a standard that you hold yourself to with the records that you're putting out. You've talked about it, and you kind of shook the table a little a few weeks ago when you were addressing like, yo, a lot of the music in this space, I don't want to call it mid, but a lot of it's not for me. I think that there's this, wag me and toxic positivity mindset that when people speak out on quality, it's mistaken for hate. And it doesn't really make sense for me, but I try to operate by rules of the space. And so instead of addressing it, even myself, I've avoided it a lot. And when I saw you speak up on it, it reminded me like, yo, you don't have to play by these rules. And so, one, I just wanted to commend you for addressing that publicly, because that's also not an easy stance to take. What was the straw that broke the camel's back? What did you see that happened? It was like, yo, I gotta say some shit right now because y'all are wilding.
um, Cam knows what I'm referencing here, but someone in the space hosts they host a radio show where they play some good music. I'm not gonna lie, some of the music was really good, but every time it came to hip hop, it was always some type of blockchain song, and the song was very much so trash. Um, it wasn't like something that okay, like Oshi dropped a song, and I think it was called Blockchain, and it's pretty good. But these other songs, it was like, okay, some more work could have went into this, and it was just very disappointing because there's like so many different Web3 artists out here who are actually making really good music, but every time it comes to hip hop, you're playing this trash. And now that I think about it, I think the person was playing their album, and that's what happened there. But yeah, that's what like really triggered it. And I honestly sent that tweet when I was driving because I decided to tap in since I had some time. I had a 30-minute drive. So I was just listening to the music that they were playing, and it really upset me. So I sent the tweet, kept driving, kept listening to the radio. Then eventually I just couldn't take it anymore. Um, but yeah, and like you said, the criticism that I gave out, tried to have a conversation with them. They were calling me negative, and about it so that we can actually have a conversation before you deem it negative. And it's they never responded. So it's stuff like that. That's the toxic positivity that you were referencing. They don't want to listen, and it's really sad to see. But honestly, we just got to keep going. I just got to keep voicing my opinion. My goal is to be blocked by this person. So Eventually that will happen, or they will listen and we can have that conversation. But I think that it's important for us to have these conversations because this stuff can't continue. It's not going to be sustainable, and eventually it's just going to look like spam. It already does look like spam. It's a lot of engagement farming, um, no substance really there. So yeah, I think that it's important to keep these conversations going, starting them, and chiming in.
People conflate criticism with negativity. And there are times when they are one and the same, but they're not mutually exclusive. And so it's been a struggle for me personally, because on one hand, I used to say things were trash all the time. And then I was like, you know what? I'm giving it energy by doing that. So I'm going to say it's not for me. But on the other hand, and this was the kind of light bulb moment that I had when I saw your tweets, is that we have a huge perception issue in this space. And I've been talking about this at lengths. If all people are seeing is this engagement farming, spam type uh, community as the representation for music NFTs, it's going to be that much harder for the really talented artists in the space to get the attention, the funding, and the love that they deserve and are attempting to earn. And to your point, yeah, the conversation has to happen. I want to read some of the tweets directly because I think you spoke with passion but concisely. And it's very interesting hearing that it stemmed from the car drive. But music in Web3, and excuse me, this is a Carla the Poet quote. Music in Web3 needs higher standards. Too much good music is being put out for mid to be tossed around like it's the only thing that exists. How do we progress if we can't take constructive criticism? So now we have to support mid in order to get support back? Interesting. Seems like some folks in Web3 would much rather positive vibes 24/7 over actual growth via constructive criticism. We can have the conversation before you deem it as negativity. It's not that hard. And now those were a collection of separate tweets that I read together. But I think that you really summed up a stance in this space that has not been taken. So again, got to give you kudos to that. And it's already got me thinking, like, even wanting to address that here and just say, like, damn, well, how do we fix this? How do we show people some of the iller acts that are in the space, but aren't necessarily doing the type of shilling? And you know what? It's fine. You don't got to say the name. I was hesitant on saying the name before because I was like, nah, now you're giving it energy. I'm still not going to say the name on the show, but I invited this person on the show and they were, yeah, I might have to post the screenshot of the DM because they were like, oh, yeah, 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 sounds cool, sounds cool. In the meantime, why don't you join my space? And I was laughing because I've seen that everyone's like, yo, he'll talk with you and then immediately ask you to join the space. And I saw today he was like, yeah, what you got to do is you got to be on stage for 5 hours, then you got to listen for 5 hours, and this is the best way to grow in the music NFT community. Or, excuse me, one of the best ways. Won't even misquote there. This shit is delusional. But I digress. You know, you just put out a fire record on Sound XYZ called Stick and Move. It is officially sold out. You need to go buy it on secondary if you're listening to this episode. There's an insane amount of pressure that comes with musicians and selling out. And I don't mean selling out in the classic sense, I mean in the new Web3 term of having no more NFTs be available. There's a lot of, I guess, say reasons that we can kind of pinpoint why this is happening and why certain artists sell out and others don't. To me, I'd never look at it or really blame the artist, where I think that the pressure should not be on them to have to sell out. And, I might be in the minority here with this stance. It's just, I think it's a little unfair. So, leading up to the sound drop and seeing the subsequent reaction from the sound drop, where do you currently stand on music NFTs and the pressures of being, or the pressures of a sellout representing success?
I'm like half and half on that stance. So when it comes to sound, a lot of people know sound for artists selling out. So it's kind of like when you get on a platform, this is something that you're looking forward to or expecting, because as you've seen from the start of sound, all artists tend to sell out pretty quickly. Now I haven't before I dropped. I wasn't really tapped in on like what was going on their platform. But they have some stuff going on over there with their collector base. That's a different story. And I get where some people are saying, you shouldn't focus on just selling out. You should work your way up. But then you have the other side of things, and of course too, I'm in the Discord. I've seen some of the collectors talk about like, okay, well, this now it's time for no more cash grabs, so now it's time for artists to really shine. And they were just really set on that. And I'm just like, okay, I see on one end when you have like a lot of these artists coming in who this is their first drop in Web3, and that's all that they end up doing. So I can see, okay, yeah, the cash grab, that's a concern. But then you have artists who are already in Web3, building in Web3. You see, they have a record that you can pull from, yet you're still choosing not to support that artist. And I'm pretty sure it's for the same reason as you saying, like, all these artists with the cash grabs and whatnot. And then on top of that, I am a black woman. So we can't just ignore that. We still have two on the platform that still have not sold out. One is going on 2 weeks. The other one is coming up on a week now. So it's like, you can't ignore that as well. I think that there are some issues here in the space that people are some people are voicing their concerns, but when they voice those concerns, it's always like, okay, well, I don't see color, this, that, and the third, or, just some type of excuse. The market is down, this, that, and the third. I don't think that I don't think that those are the main issues. I think that it's much much deeper than that. But of course, people don't want to address it because they don't want to be seen in a certain light and this, that, and the third. But that was a part of like some of the issues when it came to the sound drop. And I'm not gonna necessarily fully blame this on sound because they have their own thing going on. But I think that when it comes to the collector base, there's another story. And I think that that's something that they might not have control over. So, yeah, that was my sentiment when it came to that. It wasn't about the sellout for me, it was more so looking at who my collectors were. If you look at who my collectors were on sound, you'll see a lot of familiar faces. When it comes to these other artists, you don't even know who these collectors are, but they're showing up consistently. So what's different here? How are how are these collectors all over these different artists who they claim are cash grabs, but they're still buying from? And then when it comes to my drop, I really have to pull from the community to support me. There's a lot of I was a lot of artists who collected my piece, which I didn't necessarily want that. Of course, if you want it, go ahead and grab it. But my main goal is to target, collectors, people who believe in my music, believe in me as an artist, to help me boost my career. Not trying to take from the pockets of other artists, but I was very much so appreciative for them showing up for me. It's just that I don't think that it should be that way. I don't think that we should force artists to have to support other artists because these collectors aren't pulling through for them. So
Whew, that's getting clipped. I I genuinely love that. I've gone back and forth on sound a lot. And for me, the biggest issue is that it's an unsustainable precedent. The fact that it's known for selling out and selling out so quickly is amazing, and it puts money in artists' pockets. Let me start with that. I think that that is the sickest shit, is giving artists these stimulus checks essentially that allow them to fund their creativity, because 2.5 ETH is not nothing and you can do a lot with that. When I was working in distribution, that was the size of a distro deal, and they were locking up your next album for 2 to 4 years for what 2.5 ETH is going for. So that's not nothing. And so, like, shout out to that. It's just the focus on the sellout to me comes from more of a VC mindset, where you want to constantly show like, yo, everything is selling out. Okay, give us more money to grow the platform. And so from their side, they need everything to sell out. And then that's where it starts becoming a little convoluted for the artist. You hit on an amazing, amazing, amazing point. Collectors versus the creator community and the different factors and really the different populations that exist there. Whereas an artist, you are going to support other artists. However, your bank isn't necessarily going to be there. For me, I had to think about that in this space when I came in. That's why Money Trees is the way that it is. I wish I had the bankroll to buy and support all of the artists that I would like to. And when I thought about how that would look, I was just like, damn, with music, I can put everybody I want on a playlist. I can't actually afford to collect all the NFTs that I like. So, what can I do that can help bolster and improve the visibility behind these artists that doesn't necessarily take out of my pockets? Because I mean, I'm not balling. The show is coming together, and that's to your point. It's like, yo, you're trying to be an artist, and then to have to be relied on to support other artists, it creates this weird kind of space because you still need your funds to create your art. And it is this wild kind of back and forth that I don't think anyone has the actual solutions for, but I think these conversations need to be put on a megaphone so people can think about that more. Because at the end of the day, I think Jamie brought it up in the Lit NFT Gang group chat. You know, it's a creator community and we show up and support each other. I look out in this crowd and see people that have shown up, either, you know, prior guests of the show or people that have retweeted and shared that. But that's not necessarily a collector base. How do you then get access to those collectors? We have a distribution problem in the space as well. You touched on it with visibility, with being a black woman in the space, and you know it's been documented, before, you know, hundreds of years prior to Web3, the treatment that black women get in this country, let alone being a creative. And I don't mean to tangent, I don't mean to rant. It's just that when I read Carla's tweets, I'm telling y'all, it just clicked for me that this whole not for me thing is not a strong enough stance. One of my homies said this before. When you're unbiased, both sides will hate you. And I'm not unbiased. I just think that sharing my bias can sometimes, you know, lose the message. Anyway, tangent over. Pressures of selling out is tough. The sound drop is sold out. Stick and Move is a ill record. Again, I had no funny shit. I'm telling you, like, you are one of the illest lyricists that I've heard. I don't even think of you as a Web3 artist, right? Like, that's not how I'm grouping it. When I added some of your joints from Spotify to my Spotify playlist, it wasn't a music NFT playlist. It was a playlist of joints that I'm listening to. It was bars. There was some ill stuff on Mind Muse that I don't want to rehash too much of it, but you're from the South, and I would just love for you to talk about some of the artists that inspire you so we can have that on Money Trees and just let that exist in this space as well. Because it's really dope thinking about how you have a more experimental sound than traditional Southern artists. And you have bars though, and you know I'm a New Yorker, so it reminds me with some of the great wordplay that I know Southern artists have, but that really hits my core being from the Northeast.
Yeah, so I would say that my top inspiration from like growing up would be Outkast, Big Boy, and Andre are amazing lyricists, and their cadences are great as well. And I was telling Sassy yesterday that they kind of helped. Like I would hear on YouTube, like, hey, you know, you have to enunciate and you have to utilize your accent to maybe, you know, play on words. Like New Yorkers are really good at doing that because of the way that they pronounce certain things. Southerners are another group of people that can do it pretty well as well. So I heard it and I'm like, okay, well, how do I actually implement this? And then I listened to Outkast and they do it so effortlessly. And I would take from that when it comes to actually writing my bars and making sure that, you know, I enunciate the way that I need to in order to get some things out and make it sound good. So it allows me to play with my cadences and my wordplay a little bit more. And then, of course, contemporary, I would say Jid, Chris Patrick, Kenny Mason, Earth Gang, they're all like top tier today, and they're doing amazing at writing and performing and just constructing songs in general. So I really enjoy artists like that. And then of course too, I came up with a group of artists called Rain Cloud Music Group, and they were like I would say my second group of influences because they are around me. So I'm like hopping on songs with them, and I got there's one artist named Ray Murado, and he's just like top tier with his bars, and every time he asks me to get on a song, I'm just like, oh, okay, Ray. Okay, Ray, I got to figure out how to really outdo you on your own song. So it was very much so the challenge that I needed. Um, but there's Ray Murado, there's Lax P, there's Hassan El Hobo, aka The Bum Now, Seventh Letter. They're all artists and producers in my group that really helped to form me as an artist today. And then now I'm taking it to another level by branching out and finding other artists, I would say in Georgia, really. Of course, there are a lot of great artists all around, but I feel like lyrically, I'm looking at the artists in Georgia right now because they are rapping their asses off, specifically Atlanta. So it's really giving me that extra push to go harder with my bars, and I really appreciate that. So I try to keep up with these artists daily with whatever they're dropping, and make sure that I stay on top of my pen. And of course, too, everyone around me, all of the amazing artists around me, they are extremely inspiring. I would say Pat Jr. is another amazing artist that I look up to. The way he constructs songs and his hooks are amazing. I'm trying to get him to help me out when it comes to hooks because I suck at hooks, but I'm good with the bars. It's just, trying to get the whole song to come together. So artists like Pat, Ayo Timmy is another one. He's an amazing, I would say, singer slash songwriter. He does really really great with his music. But yeah, that's a little bit of my influences.
It's ill that you're focusing on Georgia, but I was watching your NFTLA performance and you looked pretty comfortable out there. And then I saw you saying that LA was calling your name. Could you ever see yourself moving and living out in Los Angeles for real?
Yes, I can if my salary makes sense. Um, so like I went out to LA for NFTLA recently, and we stayed downtown, and you know, it's nice. The weather is amazing, but there was this vibe that I was getting that was very much so like it was on the lower end of energy that was kind of scary, and I knew that if I didn't come out here, one, financially secure, and then two, with you know my passions like really going hard. Like I feel like I need to work up, making sure that my salary matches the move, and then two, making sure that I'm working on music even more than I am today. Because I feel like it would be easy to get distracted out there, and I don't want to do that. So yes, I do see myself moving out to LA. One of these days, no time soon, but if it does come soon, that's amazing. That means that I'm doing great and I can afford to live out there. Otherwise, I'm not going if I'm going to be struggling. I would much rather live over here in the South and live comfortably and just travel.
Yo, I think you're doing that 100% correct. I went to LA and it wasn't a struggle, but it wasn't lifestyles of the rich and famous. I'll say that. Uh, how have you worked on finding that balance between work and creating? Saw that you just had a new position earlier this month at Dequincy, being their community manager, but you're still finding time to cook up. What has finding that balance been like for you?
Yeah, so I'm still working on it. I'm still working on it. When it comes to me and writing, it's very sporadic. And two, I have to make sure that the beats that I have are inspiring. So if I get a pack of beats and it's extremely inspiring, I would have no problem. I would have no problem sitting down later, like later on in the night after I've finished up work for the day, and writing a full song, calling it a day, going back to the pack like maybe 2 days later, writing another full song. So I think that right now it's because like I just started, I just came up on my first full month. I'm still working on finding that balance. But then two is there's a mixture of that and being uninspired by the beats that I have right now. So I have been like reaching out to people to get some more packs in. I got one in the other day, and I feel like this weekend I will probably be working on music. But usually on the weekends, I take time off my phone. I don't get on socials like that unless I feel like I need to. Sometimes I get on just to kind of skim through my DMs, make sure I'm not missing anything important. And sometimes I check my notifications, but otherwise I'm not on the timeline. And this is for Saturday and Sunday, so I usually spend those days. Saturday I might either do a self-care day or I'll go out exploring, and then Sunday is basically the same thing, either self-care, go out exploring, or I might just work on something that I've been meaning to work on for the longest, such as like repotting my plants or writing a song. So yeah, I usually, this is how I operated back when I had a regular 9 to 5. I would take the weekends to work on music. But because that 9 to 5 was like an office job, I was able to write at my desk. So I would write all throughout the week. And then on the weekends, I would record. But now it's like, okay, I'm like working, I'm doing a little bit more work. So whenever I like take a break during the day, I just kind of want to chill. I don't want to really like work on music or anything. So I'm thinking like I'll have to really push through it to work on music later on in the night, or just do everything on the weekends. Like I said, I can push out songs so long as I'm inspired in the moment. I could just push out a few songs in like one little 1 to 2 hour session of just writing. So yeah, I'm still working on it, but it's coming together.
There's more than one way to work. And I think the story, well, the life that you've just shared and the way that you're living your life is going to be crucial to other people who constantly see this grind 24/7 mentality being the only way to make it. Where if you're not constantly on socials every single day, you're going to get left behind. Or if you're not always working, or if you're not doing 16 hours a day, you won't have a chance. I just don't think that for some people, for sure, it works, but there's more than one way to go about it. So I love that you shared that. You've talked about moving at your own pace, and it's clear that you do. Even in the tweet that's pinned up in the nest saying, you've been in Web3 for a year now, with 6 NFTs listed, and you did it on your own time and the way that you wanted to go about doing it. When you're setting goals that fit within this workflow that you've established for yourself, what's the most important thing you think about when trying to come up with your own goals?
I would say be realistic to a certain extent. There's it's okay to like really shoot out there, but make sure that you know that you can do the work to actually achieve that goal. So I make sure that, because if you set a goal that's too like extremely far out there, say, hey, I wanna make 100K in like 2 weeks. And then the 2 weeks go by and nothing happens, you're going to be disappointed. So I still make sure that I set goals that, are a little bit out there further than what I am, today. But I make sure that I am able to achieve these goals. I could say a perfect example is coming up on a very important or special birthday of mine that I set goals for when I would say maybe 19, 20, 21. And now this year, it took all the way up to this year for me to finally be able to see that I'm actually achieving these goals. And sometimes it plays out that way. You see it very, very last minute. Like I would think, okay, by 23, 24, all right, I'm already halfway there. So, but I didn't feel that way at all until this year specifically. So, Yeah, I made sure that the goals that I set was attainable. I didn't know how I was going to get it, but I knew that I would be able to get it so long as I worked hard enough to get to where I'm going. Stay focused, keep exploring, keep doing research, keep expanding. And, I knew that I would get there. It's just a matter of how to get there. So I would say that that's like one of the main things that I focus on when I'm writing down my goals, because I do this pretty often, and that's one thing that I've learned from doing this so often, that okay, you have to make sure that this is not too unrealistic for you, and then two, you have to make sure that it's something that resonates with you. Make sure that that's something that you want, and you have to be specific about it. If you're not specific, you're gonna attract the wrong thing, or you might attract it, and it's not exactly what you set out to attract, but it's in that field. I can say another example of that is me getting this job. I said that this year I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna really like target, the sync agents to get a sync deal. I'm gonna get sync is exactly what I said. I'm gonna get sync this year. I didn't say anything else. I'm gonna get sync this year, and sure enough, I got a job in sync. So that's not exactly what I was going for, but I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it because I get to learn a little bit more about sync licensing now, so that when it comes time for me to actually get a sync deal, okay, the CEO of our company is already reviewing a contract for me that I don't have to review because I have this job and he's willing to do that. So, stuff like that's just set me up. But be specific, be realistic to a certain extent, and make sure that it resonates with you.
Yo, that manifestation is real. Congrats on the gig. You're putting yourself in a position to get your music out there. I mentioned that distribution's an issue that we struggle with in the music NFT space. And syncs play, first of all, sync checks are nice. Jazzy was on here talking about that before, where it's, some sync checks, you get a McDonald's spot, and that's a multi year salary for a lot of people. And that can be a 15-second clip of a song that you made. And there are ways that once you understand sync, if you choose to, you can actually craft your records to be sync friendly songs. The conversation for another day. You mentioned how the CEO can help you review these contracts. And I don't know if this qualifies as a goal, but you also talked about how you're trying to figure out what a manager looks like for you in this Web3 music space, but I'm also assuming that applies to just your entire music career. Me and artist management has had I've had a it's been a whirlwind because I deal with artists at varying levels, I'll say, like, of fame. And for some, they get it completely. For some, they're completely uninterested. When you think about what you want out of a manager, what are some of the characteristics or even job duties that you're looking for? And to be even more specific, in your mind, what does a manager need to have to be able to work with a Web3 enabled artist?
I would say when it comes to finding a manager, because I've had one before, and he wasn't necessary. This was his first time, with the artist. I'm like, okay, well, it's cool. This is my first time with a manager, and I've known him since I was a kid. He was like championing me since I was 15, showing my beats to my mom. I mentioned this before too. I used to show my beats to my mom, and she would show those beats to her friend, and he was the friend. And so I've known him since I was 15, and he's always said that, she's gonna be great. She's gonna be an amazing artist one day. Keep going. So I'm like, you know what? You've been there for me since I was a kid and didn't even know that this is what I wanted to do for real. So I decided to try him out. And one thing that I learned from that was that I need someone that, one, has, of course, has the connections that's needed to really get push the artist to promote them. Two, I need them to have the same drive as me. Even though you believe in what I can do, I need the work to match up. Like if I say that, hey, I've done this, that, and the third for my music and I'm showing you like I really care about it and I'm actually doing the work, can you just meet me there 50%? You know, can you help me out in ways that I'm needing your help, like simple things that I might ask for them to do just to get it done and not let it just slip your mind or something like that. I need someone that's gonna go as hard as I will. I don't need them to go even harder for me. If they want to, that's great. But I need them to go at least meet me 45%. 45%. I'm cool with that, you know? Because I actually want to take my music like this is a career for me and I actually want to take it to the next level. I have really big goals for myself. And like I said, I'm writing these goals down and I know that they're attainable. So, I just need someone to match that drive. And also, be able to pick up where I lack. So like I said before, like socializing is cool and all, but I do get drained. I can't socialize throughout a whole event. Um, that lasts for a few hours. I'm able to talk to a few people and then I just need some space for a second to just reset. And then by like, I would say like 10 o'clock, I've been like this since I was a kid. My mom used to say that I used to go crazy after when 9 o'clock hits. She used to always just watch me because I would get tired and I just I'm tired, so I'm a kid and I'm like doing weird stuff. I don't do that today, but 9 o'clock hits and I'm just like, okay, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Even though it's like I know it's necessary. So um, areas like that, just having a manager be able to pick up and network and not be afraid to network. I'm not afraid to network, but like I said, I have my tolerance sometimes is lower than other days. Sometimes I can really do it, sometimes I can't. So um yeah, and then the connections is a major point to that. I need someone to be able to plug me into places that I was struggling to get into alone. So just need me a partner. Honestly, ultimately, I feel like my manager would be like a business partner. Um, I mean, I would say they are. They're getting a percentage. So like just do the work and don't allow me to be doing a lot more work than you are outside of the music. I shouldn't be doing everything. So yeah.
I like to say that the artist is the CEO of their brand and the manager is the COO. They're there to make sure that all of the operations, top to bottom, run smoothly, work, the relationships are there, everything is buttoned up. It's very, very interesting for me thinking about it because one, I have a dislike of the independence quote unquote push. And the reason, of course, yeah, there's bias there, but I just don't feel like artists should have to do everything. And there's been this major push like, yo, you don't need anyone. You can do it all yourself. And while it's possible, it's just not feasible for a lot of people, where that is so much pressure to require you to do your marketing, do your PR, do your socials, go and create, go and get the funding together. Like it's a lot for an artist that already has one of the most difficult jobs in the world. There are so many people that deem themselves creatives. You're compete, it's a competition, and it's not like you have to compete against anyone other than yourself, but you're competing for attention from thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people, whatever the number is. And so when all of that pressure falls on you, it becomes tough. And I would say very, very few people have done it. Actually, I would argue that nobody's done it alone. And so the independence thing, it's a scary narrative that's happening in the space. But I get it because, Web3 is enabling things like moving away from predatory label contracts because now everything can be out in the open in theory. Of course, we have not yet seen this actually materialize yet. Well, not in many places and not at a high level of success. I wanted to ask you that because I've been talking to a bunch of different people about these new types of management situations. I remember Latasha had tweeted out like, oh, she was trying to figure out if she needed a manager and what that manager could actually bring to the table. And to me, I look at it and I'm like, I don't know if you need a manager right now. I don't know if you have to give somebody 20% of all of your business. And, management deals, they're not 360s, but they kind of are, where the manager is going to touch every single piece of your business because they are that COO. But when you think about Web3, it's interesting to think like, yo, can't I kind of have a freelance manager? We set up a contract, we set up a smart contract, we set it up based off of a project, and you take this percentage, and we go and get another publicist that's locked in. And the reason you have to do these all-encompassing deals in the past is because legal battles and making sure everyone gets paid and all of that being on the up and up. But on the blockchain, there's a higher level of transparency. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of managers that are, and that's another thing too, is that a lot of people are trying too much to be creatives, and they have great business and marketing minds and could be better resources by doing that. And I know that that's a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people, but it's also like, yo, you don't have to be everything. You might just be an amazing marketer. Going on a bit of a tangent here, but thank you for sharing that, because it's going to be something that we watch develop in this space over the next few years, and you're going to need to have great managers to match many of these great artists that are coming up. And maybe not even great managers. Maybe it's I don't call it a new term, but just a new setup, a new type of team. Anyway, tangent over there. Um, Yo, I want to thank you for coming on the show today. That you did back to back hour-long interviews, which I know can already be taxing, along with creating and finding time to repot your plants, which I'm being dead serious about. Like, I just know how much time goes into making sure that your house plants or garden plants stay alive. And so I'm appreciative of you coming on and sharing your energy, sharing your story, being very real, talking about some of the BS we've seen go on in this space. And yeah, Carla, before I let everyone go, I ask two questions. My first question is going to be, what is your seed phrase? Now, I know in crypto, Web3, your seed phrase is normally your account recovery key. I just don't think that that's a good term for something that is so every time I go to explain, like I say the same thing over and over again, but it's just like, yo, a seed phrase is not a password. And I know that it is, but it isn't. And it's just like for new people, that doesn't scream security. So here on Money Trees, we're planting seeds, planting ideas, and repurposing the term seed phrase. The seed phrase here is going to be a saying, a quote, a slogan, a lyric, a motto that you live by that embodies your approach to your career, to your art, to your craft. Carla the Poet, what is your seed phrase?
It's a question that I probably should have prepared for. And I'm not even sure if I think you sent that to me, but I forgot to do it.
No, I
But
might
it
not have.
would
Don't even. No, I'll take the blame for that because a lot of times, sometimes actually, I haven't done it in a while. And this is like completely random, but I feel like I like letting the guests figure it out on the spot. But maybe better production quality if I prepare you guys ahead of time. So I don't know. Anyway, I digress. But I'll
so
definitely take the
so
blame on that.
just a set of words or like a whole like just a quote.
Anything. It could be one word. It could be an emoji. It could be a poem. Whatever you're feeling.
I would say patience, um, self love. Um, Patience is like a big one, by the way. We all need a lot of patience when it comes to Web3. So that's number one. Patience, self love, and growth. And I choose those three because, like I said, we need patience in Web3 in general. And then two, patience for yourself, transitioning into self love. Make sure that you give yourself that grace that you need to not like overthink some things, not like, put too much pressure on yourself. And then, of course, growth. Ultimately, through this patience and self love, keep going at what you're trying to achieve, but make sure that you have that patience for yourself as you're going through your growth, and that you're tending to your needs along the way.
I love it. I love it. Patience, self love, and growth. My second question, which is always the one that catches people off guard, What is the price of your one of one NFT going to be listed for? We're going to take the Money Trees number 58, add it to the collection, and put it up on Zora. It is 50% goes to the guest, and then me and the artist split the other 50%. It's a way to commemorate and celebrate your appearance on the show and also immortalize it on the blockchain. So, yeah, Carla, what would you like your NFT to be listed at?
Um, so I've been trying out this model, and I'm not sure if anyone peeped, but basically listing my NFTs, like my one of one NFTs, at the last price that it sold for. So the last price that I sold a one of one NFT for was 0.75. So you can list it at 0.75.
There it is. There it is. There it is. Again, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been an incredible conversation. I'm very, very excited to see what the rest of your year and just career in the space looks like. I'm glad we've got to connect this way, and you've joined the Money Trees Garden. So, again, thank you. Thank you.
I appreciate you, and I have to say before we leave, this was one of the best interviews that I've had so far. So kudos to you for doing that. And I love how you all are doing things over there at Money Trees with listening to NFTs and doing the whole dollar. I'm not sure exactly what you call it, but just it looks like money, and you have
Yeah,
the
yeah.
artist on it. That's pretty dope. So I appreciate you for having me on here, taking the time to allow me to share, a little bit more about myself, and how well constructed this interview was. So thank you.
Yo, that is love. That man, I have no words. I'm speechless. Thank you so much. Shout out to Carla the Poet. I'm gonna go listen to some more bars, and I'm telling y'all, the lyricism really is crazy. Like it really is. All right, I'm done. Carla, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day, and yeah, we will for sure be connecting more in the future.
Yes,
Peace
sir.
out.
I'm gonna hit you up after this. Thank y'all for tuning in. See y'all later.